Welcome back to the Couchcast. This is episode 4. We are actually doing this live at Pat's house.
Yeah, everyone is here in person.
Yeah, it might sound a little bit different because we are using Pat's mic. We were talking about when we were going to plan on making the next recording, and he was like,
we are here.
I have a mic right there and a table, and as you can hear the giggling, we have a guest today.
Yay! I'm my own hype club.
Yeah. You are your own hype man.
Oh, I'm Crystal. Hi. I realized I never introduced myself.
It's actually kind of a funny story. We'll just go into this real quick before we start our topics. I actually met Crystal before I met Pat. Me and Crystal went to college together, and then she introduced me to Pat, and then that was all.
And the rest
and
is
the love
history.
story began.
Yeah. Now we're a trouble. No.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I only sleep with Pat.
And only on Tuesdays.
Yeah. That's why this gets uploaded on Wednesday, because we're busy on Tuesday.
Exactly.
All right, but into the topics. Okay, we'll go ahead and start with, I guess, kind of an easy one. How important is UI, or, user interface? I already have my ideas on this.
I think it depends on the genre and on the game itself, but I have some thoughts as well.
I feel like
am I too
pretty
quiet?
important as well, though. Even depending on the genre, I feel like it's important because you can't play a game if you don't have a good system to play it with.
Now, I heard someone say this once, and I agree really well. He said, I don't remember who said it, if someone knows exactly what I'm talking about, or if multiple people probably said this, but the idea is that a good UI, you likely won't even notice.
Yeah.
Because it's too busy doing its job.
Exactly. You won't see it. You won't really know it's there because.
However, and this will be one of the first times that I talk pretty highly about this game, because I usually talk pretty negatively about it, which is slowly changing. But
What's that?
Persona 5 has an amazing UI. But yeah. So if you haven't seen Persona's UI, just look up Persona gameplay and you will immediately know what I'm talking about. I mean,
yeah, I think it's a good example
of
a well done UI.
Yeah, right after Persona 5 was coming out, people were going to conventions with the UI on made it cut out of cardboard on sticks. They would hold it.
Yep.
They would hold it around people to take photos, and it's that's a successful UI.
It is, yeah. But that's the thing is that's become part of the game's visual aesthetic.
Yeah,
and
but if you
it's
look at
not just the practical application of it, that's just part of how the game looks now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not even a long running thing, because if you look at Persona 3 and Persona 4, I can't really speak of 1 and 2 or any of the other games, but I have played 3 and 4 at least a bit. I haven't beat either of them, but the UIs aren't exactly flashy, and
No, they're not. They're very practical.
Yeah. I mean, they're still cool, that's for sure. But, I've always loved the whole panel thing that comes in when you do an all-out attack or whatever it's called.
Yes.
How all the panels come in and they're all just let's do this. That's always been really cool. Obviously, Persona 5, turned the dial up to 11 for that.
Yeah, very much so.
As far as, visual aspects, Persona 5 delivers over and over and over again. My problems with it were more on some gameplay side of things.
Yeah, it sounded like from our discussion that your issues with it were mostly mechanical.
Yeah, because I love the social aspects of Persona, but yeah. But I think UI could actually in some cases be a little bit more than what you would expect. Some games have found ways to implement UI directly into the game itself.
A really good example of something like that, one of my favorite games, Dead Space.
Yep, that's the exact one I was going to go with. Dead Space
There
does
is
not
no
have a
UI.
UI. Everything
not.
is in the game. But it's fantastic because the lack of UI doesn't take away from your ability to do anything,
you have
because
just as much information.
Yep, but it's all cleverly implemented. And granted, it's not as easy for some games because that is specifically a futuristic sci-fi type of setting where you can have like holograms and suits that.
But there's also the older Resident Evil games that use other kinds of context clues to give you kind of an idea of what state the character's in.
That's something we'll have to touch up on later. I don't want to touch up too much on it.
Yes, no, but we'll definitely save that
it is nice that the UI in Resident Evil is not present
until
you actually open up your menu.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that's good because it makes sure that it doesn't intrude on anything.
Yeah.
So you're basically talking about like whenever the character like starts to shuffle
yes,
or like
exactly.
stumble
When they
and
start
like
limping,
yeah.
they're holding their sign, you can tell that they're clearly injured.
Which that's a very clever way of like getting around something like that. Like if you don't want the clunkiness of a UI being there on screen and like holding up space, like especially for like in the first Resident Evil, like whenever like you're turning a corner and like there's like a creepy little zombie coming at you, and you need to see that there's like a shadow in the corner, so you know that there's something around that other corner, or else like
something like
you're
a
gonna
health
die,
bar, something
like me.
Exactly. But see, that's the thing. Something like a health bar or a status bar or
would
an ammo
possibly
counter,
cover up
it
that.
potentially covers that.
Right.
And now, here's where I actually say something negative about one of my favorite video game series ever.
Uh-oh.
Final Fantasy doesn't really deliver on the UI. It is,
I don't know that it really ever.
Final Fantasy's UI doesn't get in the way, and it's practical enough to just work with, but it's never been like a feature of the game that anyone ever wants to talk about. And
I mean, I actually have one very good example of an UI from Final Fantasy, Crisis Core.
Okay.
Now, a lot of it comes down to the kind of gameplay and the kind of combat mechanics that Crisis Core used, but like my favorite particular Final Fantasy being 12, the UI in 12 isn't really all that much to talk about.
Yeah.
It's extremely practical. It looks nice, but realistically, it doesn't really fit the aesthetic of the rest of the game. It's engineered to stand out, which kind of makes it, in its own way, kind of intrusive. But either way, the UI for Crisis Core gives you exactly what you need in little tiny pieces in the corners, and then it gives you your bar of abilities. And it gets out of your way. It lets you focus on the combat and focus on what you need to do rather than what menus are allowing you to do said combat.
Well, my thing would be like, I think UI can be more than what people think UI is. A lot of times, useful UI is going to be that UI that you don't even pay attention to or remember, because it's just there to do its job, and it's not intrusive, and it's not going to stick out like a sore thumb. But then the ones that do stick out, but positively, those are the really, really good UIs.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of games could push for stuff like that. And a way to do so is to make it fit your theme, make it fit the overall tone that you're trying to give off.
Yeah.
Maybe even incorporate the UI into what's currently going on. Because there's been plenty of games where, like, you have a UI and then something happens to your character and...
Kingdom Hearts, the UI changes per world. Changes a little...
Oh, yeah. That's cool. I meant more like... I can't think of an exact example. I know I've played a game like this, but... I want to say there was like a first-person shooter I was playing where you get a UI, and then something happens to your character, and your UI is just gone for a little while.
Huh.
And then you end up getting it back. Like there'll be games like that where you'll just really lose your UI. Really cool. I have not played it, but I did watch something that was talking about the UI in Nier Automata.
Yeah.
And it was talking about how literally some of your UI features are choices, like and not choices as in options, but you're like in that game you have a number of slots that you can fill with different abilities, and some of those ability slots you can fill with UI choices. So if you can literally pick to not see health bars or something like that in order to get new other ability bonuses.
Exactly.
And it's like that is really cool.
You can also fun little thing. You can also in that same menu remove the thing keeping the character alive.
And
like you can remove their like core programming or whatever it is. I don't remember exactly what it's phrased as. Yeah. But you remove that and then exit the menu, the character dies.
Wow. Yeah, because they said whenever you open the menu in game, you're literally accessing her.
Yeah, you're like accessing her programming.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why when you change things in the UI, and it even showed the player going to the volume settings, and the other character in the game is like, "Can you hear me? You might want to adjust your volume settings so that you can hear me better." And it was like that was a really cool way to incorporate it straight into the game because you're playing like a robot, so it makes sense. Stuff like that's really cool. I think like there's so many different things you can do with UI, and you can always make it based off of.
Absolutely, I think there really isn't ever an excuse for it to be something all that obtrusive. Like it should never get in the way of what you're doing.
And actually, like I always encourage people to join in on the discussion, but I don't think I've ever asked anybody to directly jump in on a certain one. But if you do have good examples of UIs, I'm insanely interested in what you think. Oh, another good example of a UI is actually from Earthbound, because they have the tick down life thing. That works as both an interesting looking UI for your life bar, but it's also a game mechanic because you can heal yourself before your life ticks down. It's really cool. But yeah, I don't know. Did you have anything to add?
Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I was just listening.
I'll be honest. That's fine.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't really pay attention to it as much unless it gets in the way. Like, then that's when it becomes problematic.
Yeah, it's really something that you only know.
Or if it's clunky. Yeah. Like, I know, like, you mentioned how, like, Kingdom Hearts changes with each world, but it's a very clunky UI as well, though.
It kind of is.
It's so big.
It's not very
and it just takes up so much room.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not intuitive.
There's not really a problem with that, but I don't know. I mean, but then again, too, like...
I won't lie, though. When I was a kid, and I started off the game with my health bar looking like a little circle, and ended the game with my health bar looking like a Hot Wheels track.
Right.
That was cool.
That was the best.
That was cool.
I was like, my health bar is all the way over there.
It's like in Legend of Zelda whenever you get all the hearts and it's just like this long ass row of hearts.
There's
and
4
you're just
rows
like,
of hearts.
yeah, so much life. I did all the
Cannon.
things, but then you get so mad because like you can tell like at the end that you didn't get all of them because it's not an even row, and you're just like cringing because you're like, where did I miss the heart piece? Where did I miss my opportunity? And you're just like dying inside, but you finished the game, so it's like.
Now what do I do? Do I do it again?
And then still miss them.
And since we brought it up earlier, I don't want to like anyone who was just curious as to what we were talking about when we were talking about Resident Evil. The topic that's directly related to Resident Evil, we'll go ahead and touch up on that, is what makes a horror game
horrific?
Yeah, like that's a good way to put it. Like,
also festive and topical.
When does horror become a tone as opposed to an aesthetic? Mm-hmm. Because there's plenty of games out there that definitely fit into the horror genre, but don't necessarily make you feel frightened. Like, have you looked at some of the things like from Doom and like Mortal Kombat and stuff like that. Like there's really scary looking shit.
I would say also that the first Devil May Cry would fit in with kind of a horror aesthetic.
Yeah,
because of the way
the aesthetic fits great, but
it's an action game. There's never moments of true terror except for when you're
unless you think you're gonna die.
Yeah,
that's your own
unless
problem,
you suck
games.
and you're just you're backed against a wall.
So here's the thing about me and the original Resident Evil. I love the first Resident Evil games so much, and this kind of brings in the whole UI thing that we were trying to talk about. In the first game, you don't really have an heads-up display. You only have a heads-down display, I guess you could call it.
Heads-down display.
I mean, yeah. Because the only time you can see it is when you go into your options. I think heads-down display is a real thing, but I don't know if it's I don't know if it's relevant to this.
What you're getting at, and it's a good way to say it.
Yeah. So you kind of have to keep in mind how many bullets you have exactly in your gun. Yes. I'm pretty sure anyone who played Resident Evil. And also, you have to open up the menu to reload, I believe.
In the remake, you can perform a quick reload.
Oh. Well, I remember there being plenty of times where I'm pointing at a zombie, and I'll bring out a couple shots, and it won't end it, and then I just keep hitting the trigger, and nothing's coming out.
Nothing happens.
And that puts so much adrenaline through you, and you're just like, fuck, and then you open the menu, and you're just like, fuck.
There's no bullets. And then you realize there's no bullets.
Yeah, there was so much great about that, and like, people might hate the tank controls of Resident Evil 1, but you can't say that didn't add to the horror.
It absolutely adds to the tension.
That's like, me and Pat, we tried to record Resident Evil. That didn't work out because I guess our computer was just saying
it didn't.
Yeah, so our computer was squeamish and didn't want to play horror games. But
exactly.
Pat was like, "Do you want to use the new controls or the old tank controls?" And I'm like, "Why did you even ask me that question?" I was like, "What do I look like? I use the tank controls.
Do I look like a sissy to you?"
And I definitely get that more modern controls feel better, but they don't add to that survival horror feeling that I'm looking to get out of Resident Evil.
I will say, having played a little bit of the newer controls since we tried that, does not make a difference. Shit is still terrifying.
Maybe.
It's still scary.
I will say, from the perspective of somebody who is only used to like new style of controls,
because you went from.
I played the original one on GameCube.
You played the remake on the GameCube.
Because I have the GameCube.
I think after only playing Resident Evil 4, I think.
Yeah. Well, so no, I don't even think I had played 4 at that point, because that was before 4 came out, I think.
No.
Yeah, no, because you loaned me the game.
Man.
I didn't have the game.
I got Resident Evil. I had 4 before I got the remake.
I didn't play your 4.
I know.
I
you
played my
4
brother's 4.
This is what happens when you invite a couple to a
podcast. I'm fairly certain that you had played the beginning of 4 but hadn't finished it.
Regardless.
But either way, you had been exposed.
I played the first one on GameCube.
My point with that was you had been exposed to what the controls had become and what they were.
Well, I wasn't even referencing
and then went backwards.
That's like a shooter perspective, regardless. Like that, it doesn't matter if I played 4 or not.
No, but
it's fine.
I know. But the order in which you get exposed to the mix.
No, it's fine. Stop. Let me get to the point. Okay, so the point of this being, as a person who is more familiar with like the more modern take on first-person shooter type. Or not even first person.
Just shooter games.
Shooters in general.
Yes, I was like, that's not first person.
I knew where you were at.
But yes,
I got you.
As that perspective, like for me, it was very, very clunky going into it. Like honestly, like whenever I played it, it was very clunky, and it was frustrating to me because of the fact that my mind kept wanting to do what it was used to doing, and so I would die for dumb reasons because of the fact that
I pressed right. Why didn't I move right?
Yes.
Exactly.
And like that makes sense if you are going in with the mindset of like that's how the game is. But whenever I was presented the game, literally Pat was just like, here, play this, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I was like, this is dumb. And then also too, like, I'm good with puzzles, but also I feel like some of the like, and I appreciate
those
the fact
puzzles
that
are more than willing to let you fail.
As the spectator for all of this, the puzzles that she did the solutions that she came up with, like, in the real world would have been much better than what the game was throwing at you.
Yeah.
Because she's like, oh, just put it there. You can't put it there. You got to go get this thing first. Why do I need this thing? That's how the game works, baby.
Well, and it's like, I appreciate the fact that it's difficult, because also, too, if it was a hand-holdy kind of thing, it would be stupid. Like, there would be no point to it. There would be no suspense. There would be no tension.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to, is because, like, for the longest time, I was thinking, I can't stand horror games that have guns, because as soon as you give me a gun, I know I can kill it, and then it's not scary. And then I had to remind myself that Resident Evil exists, and Resident Evil scared the shit out of me as a kid. Yeah, and I was able to shoot whatever I wanted.
You get a grenade launcher.
Yeah, you eventually get like a fucking rocket launcher. Yeah. And you're still scared.
Exactly.
Yeah, well,
because you shoot it with a rocket launcher, and it eats it, and it's just like, what's up?
And it gives zero shits.
Until you get the fucking Magnum, and it kills everything in one hit.
Well, it's one of those things, though, but it's still like,
very much so.
You don't know how much ammo you have, and you know that there's a finite amount of ammo. Like, that's the most terrifying thing about it. Like, if you had unlimited ammo, then it would be, like, stupid. It'd be like, then there's no reason
That's
to be
why
scared.
I didn't like, the games past 4, and it's because, 4 was more action than I was used to. But
there was still a lot of tension, so it still had... some of the same feel.
Well, but the thing is like 4 was like, yes, we made things a little more action-packed, and you got a little bit more of a kick now, but this is one thing people don't take in consideration. You have less view of where your character is, because you would no longer have a third-person view. You have a second-person view. You have over-the-shoulder camera as opposed to... in some cases, top down in Resident Evil.
Yes, very much so.
So, like, literally taking away camera controls, taking away the ease of access to weapons and stuff like that, like, making people focus on all these different aspects of the game, like what's going to be around this corner, what's behind that door. Stuff like that can add to a horror game, and you can still add in the action side. Where people end up feeling like a badass afterwards. Because there's a great example of a game where you can't fight back, and it's personally my favorite horror game, and it always will be, and that's Amnesia: The Dark Descent. That game is terrifying. When I first started playing it, I could only play it for 30 minutes at a time.
Wow.
This was like my introduction to my addiction to horror games. And because like before that I played Resident Evil. Fine. But this was completely different. This Amnesia is way more immersive in its gameplay. Because half the time there is nothing there. You just feel like there might be. And then like you'll walk into a room and you're like, is it in this room? Nope. Is it in this room? Nope. Is it in this room? Nope. And then it'll just keep on going like, nope, nope, nope. There it is. And then it's like, ha! Because you continuously anticipate it. And I think that's a really good feature to utilize in horror is anticipation. And that's why I think that if someone was like, hey, here's a remake to the first Resident Evil game, and it did not have the loading screen where you slowly open doors, I'd be like, this isn't a Resident Evil game at all. Like, this is just dumb.
Because it takes away the build-up and the tension, and it gives you time to speculate what's going to be on
already
the other side of this door.
Pat even remembers, I was a little upset that they took away the whole thing where you walk up the stairs. I get it, it's not that big of a deal, but... I thought it added to the atmosphere of the game. Because when you walked up the stairs, there was no music playing. It was just doop, 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 doop. Yeah. And then it goes back into the game and the music starts again. And it was just so atmospheric. Like
it
little
starts in
tiny
with the
things like that.
From the director's cut, that weird-ass trombone music.
Like those little tiny things that people don't even think matter end up mattering.
Oh yeah, they add so much to the
because if they wouldn't have taken it out, I probably wouldn't have even noticed. I'd have just been like, oh, okay, it's just the stair thing.
Exactly.
But they took it out and I was like, wait a second. I ran back down the stairs and I ran up the stairs and then I turned around in the middle of the stairs. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? I was like, it doesn't even auto run you up the stairs because that's what a couple of the games, like I think Code Veronica does that.
Yeah,
where
I believe Code Veronica 0 and
Yeah, they
three.
auto path you on things like stairs and ladders and stuff like that, which sounds like a bad idea, but it adds to the tension because
it takes you.
Because as soon as you start,
out of your hand.
as soon as you start running up the stairs, and then the camera starts panning up, and you see a zombie, you're like, no, go back down,
Yeah, exactly,
you can't until you get up there.
Yeah.
It's great. Like, those little moments are just gone because of, those little accessibility additions or whatever you call it.
Just
quality of life.
Quality of life things.
Quality of life changes
certain things.
And to be honest, you're trying to scare people. You don't need quality of life because you're trying to take away their quality of life.
I feel like
that's why we really need to play the Clock Tower series. We need to play Clock Tower 3. That game looks fantastic.
I've not played any of the Clock Tower.
I have not either, but I have seen a bit of gameplay of Clock Tower 3. It looks fantastic.
Once we get our hands on a capture card that's compatible with it, because we have a GameCube here somewhere, we need to play.
Yes, I do.
It's right
Eternal
there.
Darkness.
It's right behind us.
It's got like In Sync on it.
Yeah.
No, it's Drake
It's
Bell.
Drake Bell.
It's Drake Bell.
I'm sorry, I took personal offense to that.
We need to play. I think it's Eternal Darkness, the one where you hallucinate enemies.
Oh yeah.
And there's no enemy there.
You fight them with a flashlight, right? Is that the one?
I think so.
Or is that Alone in the Dark?
Alone in the Dark, you fight them with a flashlight.
Yeah, the flashlight's your greatest weapon.
Yeah, exactly.
I wasted so many bullets in that game. I think that's a Dreamcast game.
I think
they probably re-released it on something. But...
it's been on a couple of different things. There's been a couple games.
But yeah, like so many games will portray themselves as being horror games.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're just
mowing down enemies.
Yeah, you're just shooting an assault rifle into enemies, and it's like, this isn't really scary.
See, here's the thing: the only difference between a horror movie or a horror game, or even a horror movie, and an action game or an action movie with some scary enemies or scary monsters, is resources. It's resources and information, because the reason that Resident Evil tells you the specific things that it does, like it tells you whether you're injured, but it doesn't tell you if your gun's loaded, because you're that character. You are Chris Redfield. You're expected to count. I had 15 rounds in the pistol. I just used 5. I only have 10 left. I can knock over 2 zombies.
Well, you're expected to remember actual things that you would have to remember in real life. Whereas,
exactly, it puts you in that situation.
Game like Left 4 Dead or something like that.
It doesn't matter.
That's not at all scary.
And a really big thing,
but it's not scary at all.
A really big thing that's probably overlooked is, and we had to find out. We had to remind ourselves the hard way. In Resident Evil, one of your biggest things is inventory space.
Yep.
Because it's like, I want as many bullets as I can have. Sure, but you always have to keep like one inventory slot open, or else you're just gonna miss out on something. And it's like,
you end up missing out on a healing item. You end up missing out on a solution to a puzzle that you're in the room with.
There's so many options you have to make, because the game, yes, it lets you mix herbs together.
Honestly,
but that's
why I cringed when you picked up the pen in the dining room. To be honest.
Oh, okay.
I was like, didn't leave that there.
Yeah, because you don't need it for so long.
Exactly.
But yeah. So, like, yes, you can mix herbs together, but when you do that, you are forcing yourself to wait until you're at like critical health in order to use your herbs, because. Before, like, if you could have unlimited space, you would just pick up a shitload of herbs and just use them one after another to heal yourself.
And, like, as a point of, like, giving credit where credit is due, even in Resident Evil 6, you have finite space. You can only hold, I think, 6 herbs, or 6 healing things, 6 healing items, be it an herb or a first aid spray.
It's still a lot.
Yes, it is a lot. It is a crap ton. But you can only hold a certain amount of ammo for each weapon. Like, they do still have a restriction on how much you can carry, and that's been a thing for the entire series. And that's like the one thing they've stuck to.
If I can remember correctly, there's one game where like sprays were definitely stronger than herbs,
Yes.
but I think you actually had to literally use the spray.
Yep.
Like your character would pull it out and spray it.
That's 0. They actually spray themselves.
So you didn't want to use it all the time because as where it is really strong,
it takes like 2-3 seconds.
Yeah, so you can literally get hit. So if you're at critical and you're about to get hit,
it may
don't
not
use
have
the
been
spray.
0. It may have just been 5 onward. Now that I think about it.
Huh. Well,
but again,
that's one good thing.
I've only 0 is by far the one game in the series that I am the least knowledgeable.
I want to play through them all again because as of right now, my favorite has been and still is. I don't want to say always will be because I don't know that. I need to replay through the games, and I've never beat 2, sadly enough.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Pump the brakes here. Really?
Yeah, I've never beat 2.
You never made it to the end of 2?
No, I've never even made it, like, through the, like, first big part of 2, I guess. I think the furthest I made it was, like, through the police station or something like that, and that's, like, the beginning of the game. So, yeah, I haven't played that much of 2, and I hear 2's amazing.
2 is to tell you know how I am, and you know how much I like Resident Evil. Yeah. 2 is my favorite out of all of them.
Okay, yeah. Code Veronica's
my favorite. Is a close second,
and it's been
Code
been my favorite since I was a kid, and like it's a handful of things. For one,
it's because of Claire.
Well, Claire is great. I did like Claire, but I love the villain. I love the way they built up the villain.
I thought you were gonna say what's his name, Steve.
I liked the way they handled that story. That was cool.
Yeah.
Like I don't. No spoilers, even though it's an old game. But
absolutely. No, but still, like,
there's still people who haven't played it.
Exactly. She's not played it, so like, that just. In this room alone, we have a reason. And they handled it really well.
We will be looking for some spooky games to play, but it's not going to be Resident Evil because me and Pat decided that we're going to go with his tradition, and we're going to be playing Resident Evil for Christmas.
Yeah. The only exception right now is that on my street, you are well aware of this tradition. You've just not participated yet.
I don't remember why.
So I'm going to tell the story of how this started because it's actually really cool.
Okay.
So I played Resident Evil 4. I played Resident Evil 4 in high school. That was my introduction to the series.
Okay.
I had played some of it here and there, like a little bit. I played a little bit of 2 with my stepdad when I was a kid. But it was like, we both kind of sucked at it because we didn't really know what to do. So we never really made any progress. And I picked up 4. Actually, I was given 4 as a present just because it looked interesting. I was like, oh, whatever. I want to play Red Dead games now. And
you're like, I'm a big boy.
Exactly.
Yeah, he did tell me there was a phase in his life where he literally stopped playing certain games because he thought he was like too mature for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I learned.
And then he realized how wrong he was and bought a shitload of Power Ranger and Pokemon toys. So.
Exactly.
And that's how we got here.
And then I filled our apartment with Gunpla.
That's fine.
So I played Resident Evil.
Gunpla being mechas, by the way, just in case you're not in on the know, because I had no idea until Pat told me.
Yes,
so yeah.
So Resident Evil 4 was my first step into the franchise. I played through 4 so slowly. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know what the overarching story was. All I knew is I was this suave looking, like, very action hero-ish kind of character with a nice fancy silver pistol and a fur coat, or a jacket with fur on the collar and everything. Like, he was super stylish, looked real good. I was sold.
And there's weird people with bug tentacles coming out of their heads. I mean, that's all you need to know.
Exactly. All you need to have in life, right
when
there.
I didn't live with my mother at the time. I lived in the city we're currently in now, about an hour and a half away from her. And I would go and I would spend like a week at a time with her. And I brought my GameCube with me, and she and I played through Resident Evil 4 together. It was my second time through the game, and we had such a good time that for Christmas that next year, waiting for me at her house was Resident Evil 0, the remake of Resident Evil 1, which were because they were older and the next generation of consoles had come out, they were somewhat hard to find games at the time still.
Yeah.
But there was Resident Evil 1 remake, Resident Evil 0, the GameCube ports of Resident Evil 2 and 3, and we played through...
I didn't even know they made ports of 2 and 3.
Yep, for the GameCube, they ported 2 and 3 over.
Wow.
They're a little clunky. They're a little clunky. Actually, now that I think about it, the port for 3 may have been canceled. There was a copy of 3 somewhere.
Somehow you played 3.
Yeah, we played all of them, but admittedly, this was like 10 years ago.
Don't hold them against.
Don't hold my shitty memory against me.
It was ported to Japan, but it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. It may have been something silly like that. Like there was a copy of 0 through 3. Now that I think about it, I actually still have the copy of 2, and it was the PS2 copy, or PS1 copy, excuse me.
Okay.
So it was probably the original copy for like PS1 for 2 and 3. But I know that the remake and 0 were the GameCube versions. It's just, admittedly, it's foggy because it was 10 years ago.
That's fair.
And we played through, on my Christmas vacation that year, we played through the entire series. We played through 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Wow.
And every year since then, with a few exceptions due to lack of time, that has been my Christmas thing.
Well, guess what? Me and my mom played Crash Bandicoot together, so, you know.
Nice. Very nice.
Well, I was just like, thinking, I was like, man, that's really cool. You played Resident Evil with your mom, and I was just like, I played Crash Bandicoot with my mom, I guess. She tried to play Spyro with me, but she's always had this weird thing with, like, 3D games with fast camera movement. Like, she can't handle it. She can't watch it.
Gives her a headache or something like that?
Yeah, she gets, like, motion sickness from it.
Actually, there is a game that gives me motion sickness. What was it that kept giving me motion sickness whenever I play it? Was it Breath of the Wild, actually?
No.
What was it? It was something I was just playing not too long ago. And it's the first time I've ever encountered it. It was really strange, but for whatever reason, I kept getting
every once in a while, I'll get lightheaded and get motion sickness from games, but it's not like an innate thing that a game can
I've never gotten
I hadn't
that.
up until that instance, but
Like, I've played games for hours on end, in cars and planes and
oh my
trains,
God,
all sorts of shit.
My mom used to have a car that had an actual electrical outlet in it, and I would bring my GameCube.
Oh,
That's actually why.
Oh my gosh. Okay, to go off on a little bit of a tangent.
Yes.
My dad's friend, which, you know, rest in peace. She was a great lady, but she passed away. She had I don't remember exactly what happened to her, but she got into an accident. This isn't how she passed away, but she had gotten into an accident and ended up suing the other person because it basically made it to where she had a really hard time walking.
Mm-hmm.
So she got a really big settlement.
Yeah.
Or a decent settlement, I should say.
Yeah.
And
she got that level of
she got like a decent house.
Good amount of money there. There's a good amount of money getting thrown around with that kind of damage to someone's life.
Yeah. She got like a decent house and a really nice car for herself and her daughter.
Wow.
Her daughter,
very nice.
Her daughter lived with her and took care of her, so she bought her daughter a car.
Oh, that's very sweet.
And she had like this really souped up van though, and it had like TVs that popped out of the the ceiling of the van and all that. And she decided that she wanted to go on vacation for the summer, and she took me and my dad. And I remember at the time I was going through a couple PS2 games, so I brought my PS2 in the van and plugged it up to the little tiny TV up there, and I had my headphones on, so they were doing whatever they want to do, and I'm sitting all the way in the back of the van, playing on the little TV up there just by myself. and then they're like, Kraig, we're here, and then I'm like, but this isn't the beach, because we were going to the beach, and they were like, well, we made a pit stop, and I look out, and it's go-karts. I was so excited.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a great summer.
That's really awesome.
Gosh, I'm actually kind of glad that I remembered that, because I forgot all about that. Wow. Kind of miss her. But now we'll segue into something else.
Yeah.
So
the eternal segues.
Yeah, Pat wanted to talk about something, and I think Crystal can actually chime in on this a little bit, at least to some extent, and that is kind of like a two-way topic. Anime aesthetics being put into games to make it kind of like fit the vibe.
Yeah, exactly, the vibe.
The vibe of an anime, because there's been plenty of games that will look anime, but they don't really seem to feel any different than anything else that you've ever played.
Yeah.
And then there's the opposite, where you're watching an anime and they incorporate some like video game world or something like that, like an MMO, and nothing about anything they're doing makes it feel like they're actually playing a video game. It just looks like they're in a fantasy world, and that implies video game somehow. So,
looking at you, SAO.
So, what exactly did you want to talk?
So primarily, like a lot of like what really kind of inspired the topic was I just finished watching How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, and I've been watching Overlord. And
he's like, I just got done watching a whole bunch of big titty anime girl shows. So.
Exactly. And I've been watching Overlord, and Overlord is fantastic. And the world that Overlord takes place in, at least to me, from my standards, they do enough to make the world still feel like a game. They constantly address...
Have you watched Log Horizon?
No.
You should.
That's on the list of ones that we were going to watch together.
Oh.
Yeah, we talked about this last time.
Okay.
We talked about this last time Log Horizon came up.
Okay, yeah. Log Horizon definitely does a good job, because I just want to go off on a little...
No, you're fine, by all means.
Basically, Log Horizon is your traditional, oh no, we're stuck in an MMO, but it's... Yeah. But then it completely cuts out the rest of that sentence, and instead of saying, how do we get out, they're like, how do we deal with our new lives?
Yeah.
And they start creating their own form of government, their own form of barter and trade and stuff like that, and they have to create their own, like, laws, because there's people that decide, oh, in this new world, you just get resurrected anyways, so we'll just kill people. PvP? Yeah, they just start player killing, and it's like, in their minds, they're like, it's not like you're actually dying, but it would suck to live a life where you're constantly dying. I mean, it sucks enough in video games. Imagine trying to, like, go and do your daily routine, and then someone kills you, and you have to fucking trek all the way back.
Yeah, you gotta go all the way back and do that shit. Start that shit all over from the starting.
You're just like, again. Oh no, I'm late for work, and then someone kills you, and you're like,
well, not getting to work today.
Dick again.
But then again, though, your employer
all right, you're late
at that point.
It's like,
maybe
you're late.
Maybe.
Why are you late? Well, you see, there was this guy, and he had an axe, and he killed me.
Say no more.
You know.
Exactly. Yeah, and you're like,
That'd be a good start to an anime where you don't know it's in an MMO world. They're like, look, someone killed me. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm late for work. Someone killed me.
And the boss
that
is
would
just
be
like,
awesome.
Fair enough. All right.
Oh, that happened to me last week.
Yeah, exactly.
Just don't let it happen again.
But yeah, Log Horizon's really cool. The only thing is that Log Horizon has that whole blue balls effect that a lot of these type of...
Blue balls effect?
Because they always hint at, oh no, a big battle's about to happen, but then the battle kind of happens off screen.
Oh.
So it's just like, that's what I mean by the blue balls effect, because it's like, they set up this really interesting world, and you know these people have interesting abilities, you just really never get to see them fight.
That's kind of disappointing.
Kind of sucks. I think there's a couple segments where they do fight, but it's not long-lived. Like, they were going to go fight this raid boss or something, but... I guess they do it in an okay way. You don't really get to focus on the fight, but they use it as a way to build characters.
That's cool. So, I like when they use combat as something other than just one person punching another person in the face.
Yeah,
it just makes things more interesting.
That's a whole topic about movies altogether.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a video out there about it, and it's really good. I gotta stop referencing other videos because I don't want to do all the homework involved in linking them.
Exactly. To jump back to the topic itself, because we will eternally segue into oblivion.
We would eventually talk about Kingdom Hearts.
Exactly. We will eventually end up back at Kingdom Hearts.
Everything returns to Kingdom Hearts.
Yes, it does. crap, what was I saying? Anyway, Overlord continually feels like a game. They constantly reference the level of certain things. I
only watched like the first few episodes, but I remember he brings up. He can't. UI. He brings up the UI in the beginning, but then he loses it. That's
exactly,
right.
Yeah.
That's how he kind of realizes, this isn't a game anymore.
Exactly.
But it was really cool when they were showing the UI because honestly, if you're gonna make a VR game, that's the way to do UI. That was
absolutely,
cool.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah. And there's one moment later on where another person who isn't a player, they're just an inhabitant of this world that he now lives in, they summon a monster, and it's like I think technically they refer to it as an angel.
Okay.
But it's like an archangel kind of thing. Anyway, whatever. I'm just trying to remember what exactly it is.
It doesn't matter.
No,
unless it's directly related to the point.
Yeah, exactly. And he uses some ridiculously powerful magic, and he's just like, here you go, and it's gone. But one episode earlier, you see him pick up a sword and try to swing a sword, and then he drops the sword. And he says to himself, I invested all of my points in magic. I'm not going to be able to fight with this. And that right there sold me above anything else. And then, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord had a moment really similar to my first example with the summoned creature and such. The main character gets attacked in one of the few moments he's alone in the show. They summon a monster, and this happens a couple times. They summon this, supposedly really powerful monster, and this, unfortunately, is a trapping that isekai anime falls into, of just the overpowered main character. But they summon a monster, and they're bragging about the level that this monster is, which is aha, you're still in a game. And then he just goes, all right, and it blows up. And it's just an explosion. And he makes a comment to himself about, how it's a low level. And, just stupid little shit like that. I now believe, I'm now...
As long as it did it better than SAO, where they built up those player killers, and then they all try to attack them at once.
And we see no conflicts with Laughing Coffin at all, until they tie it back to Death Gun, which is fucking stupid.
It was just dumb because he was just I assumed he was about to pull out a fedora and push up his glasses and be like, nothing personal, kid. And then,
exactly.
Slice him down. It's dude, what the fuck?
Exactly.
What am I watching here?
Yeah. No,
that's how I felt about SAO the whole time. I was like, was the writer, writing with one hand and jerking off with the other?
See, here's the thing. The fun thing in SAO is Reki Kawahara, the guy that wrote SAO, as well as Excel World.
See, I didn't like either.
He doesn't play video games.
Oh.
He doesn't play video games.
Oh.
He does not play nor enjoy video games.
Wow.
He did say in an interview at one point, it may have been a mistranslation, as again, the gentleman is Japanese. He did mention at one point that he liked the narrative implications and the narrative tool that video games brought, but a lot of it was because video games are popular. So he doesn't play or enjoy video games. So that's why a lot of stuff like that is just an outright failure.
That explains a lot.
I can tell you have something to say because you keep trying. So
yes.
Go ahead.
It's okay.
You keep inhaling
Yeah, Bill, because I actually thought of something to say, and I wanted to say it before I forgot.
No, go ahead.
But no, it's a slightly different perspective of a game or of anime portraying a game. But the recovery of a MMO junkie. Is that what it's called?
That one's fantastic.
That one is super good, and I love the way that they
portray
how an MMO works because of the fact that. They show the characters.
You could tell
in their
the
real
writers
life.
Legitimately play MMOs in their free time,
or they did a lot of homework.
Even if they're not really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
No, but you can tell it comes from someone who either is passionately involved in what they're telling
or
you,
is passionate about being
or
accurate.
has done a metric ass ton of.
I will say this though, I've seen a lot of MMO based anime that I think is good, but I've never seen one that made me think, oh, this person's really good at MMOs.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't say that I'm like the best, but when I was playing World of Warcraft, I can't remember what percentage of the player base is considered hardcore raiders, like people who raid on a regular basis and actually join raiding groups.
Yep.
But I fell into that smaller percent, and I progressively did heroic-based content. It's not mythic content. I never did mythic content, but I progressed through heroic content. So it's like I know how the game works. If I was willing to dedicate the time, I could eventually do mythic, but I don't really care about doing mythic because I'm not that dedicated. Mm-hmm. But I've never seen an MMO that or an anime represent an MMO from my perspective, where it's like I know what's going on, I know the mechanics, and I would like to see an anime that caters to me as opposed to assuming that the viewer doesn't actually know anything about MMOs.
Exactly. It always feels like it's coming from the perspective of a character who has no fucking clue what they're looking at.
Well, that's what go ahead, I'm sorry.
Or the writer is trying to put it in a way where...
the most general, relatable terms. Where
it's not... Like, I feel like it's definitely a thin line to walk on, but there's got to be some in-between, or for people who haven't played MMOs being introduced to the idea of an MMO so that they can enjoy the anime as a whole, and then people who actively play an MMO... they can get in on like some of the underlying details that aren't put forward. Be like, oh, I get this because I play MMOs. Exactly. But it's not like there's probably stuff that they can add in where it's like it's beneficial for me to recognize it, but it's not a detriment to those who don't understand the inner workings of high level play.
Well, and that's what I liked about the MMO junkie of anime, because of the fact that they introduced it as she knows what she's doing, but she's starting a new game. So it made it where she was learning new things, but you could tell that she already knew things. And her, so it kind of appealed to both.
Her grinding moment at the very beginning, I loved it.
Well, and like her throwing her head against the wall until something broke either her head or the wall. Like it was very relatable, like for somebody who has played MMOs, and like it made me think of like whenever they would be going to different places, it made me think whenever I was playing, like, granted, it was not a great MMO, it was, like, Pirates of the Caribbean Online, but whenever, me and my friend would go and play that, and, like, we would just run around and, like, talk to one another and have, like,
fucking
actual
Wizards
conversations.
101.
Yeah, Free Realms.
Free Realms!
Listen, I played Free Realms up until, like, 4 years ago when it closed.
Oh, God, I still remember that fucking squirrel.
I loved that game, though.
I wanted to like the game, but I already played like other MMOs beforehand.
I will say it's not the greatest thing, but
whoops,
you got to have like so many.
That's kind of like Fusion.
Fusion Fall.
Fusion Fall.
You
know, Fusion Fall was the worst.
Has made a huge resurgence in the last few years.
It doesn't exist anymore, babe.
Yeah, there are.
Oh, there's probably private servers.
Oh, I'm sure there
private
is.
servers that are running the game still.
Well,
the
problem is that the game didn't run whenever they made
the
game. Literally, it broke. Because I played it. I played pretty much all the shitty MMOs. I've not played hardly any of the good ones, but I played all the shitty ones. But I was there for like just goofing off. And like for example, with Pirates of the Caribbean, my favorite thing was to try to find where I could break the game and find a secret place. Like we had a secret hideout in one of the towns that we managed to like wiggle our way and glitch our way through a wall, and like that was our shop. Yeah. Like, that's where we'd set up, like, our little secret headquarters. Kind of like, that was one of my favorite things. But now, like, MMOs are so polished, so it's, like, it's hard to find a way to break it. Because usually the walls are pretty sturdy.
And anytime that stuff is discovered...
it's, like, instantly remedied.
It usually
because someone pointed out.
Yeah. Which, like, I get and I appreciate it. Because, yes, it does kind of break the immersion of it. But at the same time, I'm like, I kind of like to break the immersion of it.
That's kind of, like, the one bad thing about... I don't want to go too deep into it, but like modern design versus classic design of video games is like when we think of some of our old games, some of the stuff that makes us like some of the old games is some of the glitches and secrets that you find.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Modern games, all that stuff's gone.
The problem...
And if it's not gone, it's a bad game. That's the way we look at it.
See, that's the thing. The problem therein lies that a lot of the glitches and things like that, a lot of these really silly things that were there are either things that were done, like for instance, the Konami code. That was done for testing purposes.
That's a patch.
No, but still, like that was done for testing purposes. They forgot to remove it.
And then it became stable.
And then it became something that was almost necessary.
And then a lot of people started adding video game cheat codes because
Exactly.
cheat codes were really cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the glitches and things that make older games popular, the iconic recognizable glitches, like the whole thing with Mew and Pokemon and all that doesn't actually work. It's because there wasn't really enough know-how. Like it was a new medium at that point.
I don't even know if video games even still have built-in cheats anymore because
some do.
I remember on like Xbox 360 there would be games with cheat codes.
GTA
but they would
still has them as far as I know.
Well, yes, Grand Theft Auto has to have them.
Yeah.
Because of the whole I just want to jump in a tank and fucking
Exactly.
ride around.
Yeah.
Like if you don't do that, then Grand Theft Auto's not going to be that great of a game for some people.
They lose a portion of their audience.
Yeah. But I remember, like, on 360, anytime you'd put in a cheat code, it would be like, do you want to turn on cheat codes because you can't get, gamers...
You can't get a cheat
gamer points or whatever.
Which is valid.
Yeah, that's fair. No, but, like, I don't think there's a lot of cheat codes in games anymore, though.
No.
I don't think there really
Not that
is.
stands out to me. I know you can't go buy a cheat code
No.
anymore.
No, those don't exist.
The good old days of fucking... what was it called? Action Replay.
Yep. Now, Action Replay still exists.
Really?
Yes, Action Replay still exists.
Wow.
That's part... This is a topic potentially for another day if you decide to let me have a soapbox. That runs rampant in the world of Pokemon.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Action
okay.
Replay, R4s, all sorts of shit like that.
Since we were on a spiel about MMOs, this can actually bleed right into here. Because we want to talk about how open world games are great, but they're not great because they're simply an open world game.
Exactly.
They're great because they're a game that works so well in an open world.
An expansive map does not a good game make.
No, because there's all the time, like, people are... just today I saw an article that said that they... confirmed how big Red Dead Redemption meant, and the first thing I thought of is like,
I don't need it.
just because it's big does not mean it's better. Like, why is that always like a selling point for people? It's like big, better, and it's like no, you see, the whole thing about open world, like people don't want an open world because you can. Like, visually go wherever you want.
Yeah.
It's because it gives you the idea
It gives you the illusion that it's a world that you can explore.
Yeah, but, like, if you made an open world game where you're on a boat in the middle of the ocean, it's not going to be that interesting because there's nowhere to go. Like, you make an open world game in the middle of the Sahara desert, and it's like, okay, well, fuck, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go. There's no point.
However, if you make an open world game where you're on a boat in the Sahara desert, that would be a good game.
What?
I just want a boat that rides through sand like it's an ocean. That would be cool.
That would be really cool.
Oh, kind of like the sandbenders from...
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. Like, for example, big thing, controversial statement. I make a lot of those. One of my favorite games, my favorite particular Elder Scrolls game, being Oblivion. As someone who has played Oblivion 15 times, I don't give a fuck about the fact that Oblivion is an open world. That's not why I'm there. I like Oblivion, and I've played Oblivion as many times as I have, because I like what Oblivion has to offer.
Okay, but I will say this. Oblivion is a better open world experience than Skyrim is. Skyrim is a better experience.
I disagree.
No, listen,
Linda.
And then...
No, by all means.
Okay, so the whole thing is that in Skyrim, how often do you fast travel? All the time?
Realistically, I don't. You have to keep in mind,
You're weird.
90% of my time in Skyrim is spent in one village next to a river.
Okay, so...
Well, listen. Anytime...
You and your fishing.
I know.
Anytime I want to go from one place... We've talked about his fishing.
And I will be honest, I force myself not to fast travel. Because I'm there. I want to be involved in the journey.
See, but that's the thing, is like, there is nothing. There's barely anything between point A and point B in Skyrim. The only thing that's between point A and point B in Skyrim is detractors. And those detractors are cool maybe the first couple times you meet them. Oh, there's a bandit on the road and he's robbing from me. That's really cool. They put in bandits.
Yeah.
Until it happens 5 times, and then you're just like, all right, I'm a bit tired of these fucking...
Exactly.
Me, when I play Skyrim, I don't do the first mission, because fuck dragons. I don't want to deal with them in my game.
I don't want to deal with dragons either.
I don't do the main storyline, because I don't want to deal with dragons. If I want to do the main storyline, I create a separate character just for that.
But, I actually have a mod installed on Skyrim on my PC, where instead of starting me in the opening cutscene, it randomizes my gear based on a class that I choose.
Yep.
And
those are the best.
I choose a birth sign like in Oblivion. I choose a class like in Oblivion.
Yeah.
I choose...
That's cool.
A specific spec like in Oblivion, and it drops me in a random point in the map, and I get stepped on by a giant.
But let me say one of the reasons as to why Oblivion does open world a little bit better than Skyrim, and it's because...
It's a better game.
Oblivion actually has benefits to not fast traveling. In Oblivion, the more often you run and jump, the higher your endurance builds.
Yep.
So there's actually a reason to not fast travel everywhere.
Also, were you going to say something?
Before we got off the topic, and I couldn't bring it up because it wouldn't be relevant anymore.
No, it's fine. Just throw something at us.
But I was gonna say though, I've never played any other games other than Skyrim in the series.
Okay.
However, to your point that like you don't have any motivation to go places, Pat will tell you that I'm infuriating whenever I play games like Skyrim. Because I will fill up my backpack until I can no longer move, and then take my horse and ride the entire map back to my house.
Yep.
Yep. Because that is just the kind of player I am. And he will watch me crawl through the dungeon as slowly as humanly possible because I am so over encumbered, but yet I will always add more to my pack.
And as you are well aware, and you have witnessed,
she would highly benefit from mods, because there's literally a mod that just takes away.
It just takes away.
But I actually kind of find it fun. It makes it a little bit more challenging because you're so slow with everything. So like it makes trying to defeat the enemies like a challenge.
She's like, I'm trying to make this into a horror game.
Exactly.
I have a limp.
Yeah.
Like for me, that's really fun though. Like I don't know what it is about like that. Like I know it's like kind of clunky and it's kind of weird, but actually I like the open clunkiness of Skyrim.
You're like those old memes where the character has like 5 swords taped together and like 2 hats on and a giant bag over their shoulder.
Yeah. That's me. That's me with literally every game I play. It like infuriates Pat, but I love it about it. Like we tried to play Skyrim together, and he hates that I loot everything. Because I'm one of those people where like I am out to see every single piece of whatever the game designer put in. Like I am infuriatingly so that
You're like, someone worked really hard on this cheese wheel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, legitimately, that's what I always think. And like,
whereas
we've been playing Spider-Man, and like Spider-Man would be considered open world too, right?
However,
the new one?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
However, I was down to collect all the things.
Well,
you could actually argue that the new Spider-Man's an open world RPG.
I mean, I feel like that's fair.
Oh my god!
You level up and gain new abilities, and you put on different.
My god!
You put on different gear to get different abilities.
Yeah.
I know what.
It's
my
kind of an RPG
now.
Oh my gosh!
But like with that one,
let's not go too far.
Like especially with Spider-Man, like there's so much detail in every bit and piece of it. Like I just want to see it all. Like I would legitimately, if Pat wasn't here, I would legitimately walk the streets of New York down every single road.
She would walk the entire map
for an entire like 5 days.
Whereas realistically, because
and Pat's just like swing everywhere, and I'm like, but look, there's a building that says Jim's Diner, and he's like, okay, and I'm like, what's Jim's Diner? He's like,
I don't know.
I don't think
it's
that
a
is.
diner
owned by Jim.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then like there was
Diner at Jim.
But see, here's the thing. She's asking me what certain buildings are. It's nothing. It's a building. And then we get to Doctor Strange's New York sanctum with the window and everything from the movie, and she says, "Oh, what's that?"
Okay, in my defense, I literally only saw the window.
And Spider-Man says...
Which is very distinctive as well, so really that's not a good defense.
Exactly.
However, I wasn't
says
sure.
When you take a picture of the building, I always thought there was something strange going on in here. Something strange!
Okay, but listen. Listen, I was
something...
Yes, it's very punny.
That's great.
Yes.
I know.
But like
I know.
Also too, like I was hoping that there was a detail, but I don't know. We didn't actually go like up and down the entire building because Pat has the attention span of a squirrel.
Well, I do not.
But like we came up to Jessica Jones's building.
No,
I'm the one that went to the right floor and tried to find the office.
No, Pat has the attention span of a dog. Goldfish. After you say squirrel.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but with like Power Rangers.
So we like started to look through the building's windows because you could see in through the windows, but we didn't look through all the windows. So I'm hoping that there's some secret there, and I'm gonna go back and try to find it. But like, there's little things like that where it's like, you know, it makes you want to pay attention more. Like if you care about those kind of things. Like granted, there's a lot of people who aren't there for that, and I completely appreciate that.
And I spent like 10 minutes trying to find a building that was labeled as Nelson.
It's kind of great that this happens to you, Pat, because that's how I feel when I play with Pat. Like He'll like chase a fucking rabbit through the woods in World of Warcraft, and I'm like, Pat, we're supposed to be killing bears, not chasing rabbits.
But I found
I find out that he's got to watch you like ask about Jim's Diner and fucking Spider-Man. So that's what you get, Pat, for chasing 8 bunnies through the forest.
I'm even worse than that though too. Like whenever I play a game, I'm very much so there to like do everything. So everything I do takes forever. Like honestly, that's why I have so many games.
So it sounds like open world games are for Crystal more than us. Because the thing is go ahead.
As far as Spider-Man is concerned, open world. If it's a Spider-Man game, it has to be open world for me because I played the crap out of Web of Shadows. I'm playing the crap out of this.
Well, the thing is, it's like, I think games that are open world should be open world. And that, I don't mean like, how do I word that in the exact way I mean? I'll just elaborate on what I mean. If you're going to be open world, do it for a reason, not just to fucking fit the fad.
Yeah.
Because there's so many games that just didn't need to be open world, but
like Fallout and Elder Scrolls,
like those games have always been pretty open world.
Well, I mean, for long enough that it's
as far as
arguments.
As far as the general audience is concerned, as far as Bethesda's take on the game, I should say,
there we go.
But no, But yeah, no, those games for the most part benefit from it. But I do think that fast travel is a problem because I feel like fast travel should be an option, not the right option.
Yeah.
Well, like we've been playing Spider-Man for what?
Well, we don't even have fast travel unlocked yet.
Yeah, we can't fast travel.
And we've already completed
Spider-Man
all the
is
landmarks
so fucking
and all
fun,
the
though.
backpacks.
Like,
I know.
I came over and I didn't do anything in the game but web swing.
Yep. And the only reason we went looking for the fast travel is because I know for a fact that there are funny cutscenes of Spider-Man fucking around in the subway.
I just wanted to see Spider-Man on a subway because that's just a funny idea.
Exactly. It's like Spider-Man in his full suit checking his phone, standing next to some dude reading a paper in a subway, and it gives him a funny look.
What movie was it
like that
where he was standing in the elevator and the guy's talking?
Oh, that's the second one.
Okay, that's what I
Spider-Man
thought.
2, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that.
The good Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
But it's like that, where it's just one of those like really silly little moments where it just kind of makes it like you go seek it out because of the fact that it makes it enjoyable.
Exactly, it's because it's silly. Exactly.
Yeah. But I think open world games need to make sure that there's actually a benefit because like that's one of my problems with the Assassin's Creed games is vistas aren't that interesting to me.
No. They're really not.
I think if you're going to have a Vista in your game, it can't be a game mechanic. That's one of the biggest criticisms that I have for Assassin's Creed is they treat Vistas as a game mechanic. It's like so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's people out there who love Assassin's Creed, so they're doing something right. But for me, the only Vistas that I can ever think of that hit me are ones where they don't happen often. Like, okay, you haven't played through them yet, but there is a Vista in...
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. What's a Vista?
You know in Legend of Zelda when you climb up those giant towers?
Yes.
And then it
so like a lookout point kind of deal?
Yes, that's what a Vista is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I was just wanting to make sure I could follow this. Because you kept using Vista, and I was like, what is a Vista?
Legend of Zelda was interesting because they did use Vistas as a mechanic, but it was also directly incorporated into the game world.
Yeah.
Like, you went up there for a reason, not just to go up there.
Yeah, there was a point beyond climb this tall thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I always skip the little cutscene that shows you the surrounding. I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck what's in this map. I'm gonna go find it anyway.
But yeah, so
anyway,
the Uncharted series, in one of the Uncharted games, you're in this really big, like, compact city. Like, all of the buildings are super close. I can't remember the name of the city, and I'm sorry. But all the cities are really, really close together, and you finally get all the way to the top of this building, and then it kind of like pans the camera around and shows you the vista, and then immediately goes right back into gameplay.
That's cool.
So it's like it hits you with that, oh wow, this is really fucking beautiful.
All of this is.
But then straight back into the gameplay.
That's cool.
And it only happens then because it makes sense to happen then.
Yeah.
You're
at the highest point
in this giant city. Yeah. Like, of course.
I can tell, like, just from the descriptions that you've given for some of the Uncharted. So some of the stuff in the Uncharted games. I'm gonna love them.
Like, if Uncharted didn't have great characters and a great story, I probably wouldn't recommend it because I don't think it has like the best gunplay or anything. I do like the puzzles, and I do like, I don't know how else to put it, but like climbing shit.
Climbing shit. Platforming.
Platforming.
Well, I mean, if it's really platforming, like, I would assume.
I don't know.
So.
Like,
admittedly, the gunplay is what turned me off the first time I tried to play Uncharted.
It's not that great.
It just
honestly,
wasn't good. I was at a point where I didn't have a choice.
I played the first game on easy just so I could power through it faster. Because the gunplay, did you only play the first one, by the way?
I played the first hour of the first game.
Yeah.
I got to a point where I was stuck at a gunfight.
The first one has...
I didn't want nothing to do with it.
The first one has a good story, but really, really bad, like... It almost feels like you might as well be mowing down zombies with how many fucking guys run at you.
That's wonderful.
And it's just like, holy shit, how many people work for this guy? Like, whoa, they just throw these guys out. You're just mowing down dude after dude after dude. I swear, you kill like waves of 40 men. And that definitely dies down by the second game. The second game's way better about it. And it just gets better and better. By the fourth game, it's actually fun. The fourth game incorporates a lot of really cool mechanics that make it a lot of fun. And to be honest, I think you could pick up the whole series for like $20 because the fourth game...
Oh, that's right. There's a collection now.
There's a collection that you can get for like $15, $16.
Like
the fourth game's like $5 because it was bundled with like literally everyone's PS4.
Really?
Well, when I got my PS4, it was bundled with it, and it came with the case. It didn't come with just a download code. It came with the case.
Cool.
So, of course, everybody fucking traded their copy after they were done.
Absolutely.
Because it was a free game.
Admittedly, like, because of how much of a fan of Indiana Jones movies I am, like, I feel like once I finally sink my teeth into it, like, it's going to be one of those ones that I have all of them, and I'm never getting rid of them.
Imagine Indiana Jones, except you're not necessarily doing it for the sake of this belongs in the museum.
Oh God!
No, you're not
Indiana Jones, but with no one more.
You're not exactly Indiana Jones. Like Nathan Drake is definitely inspired by Indiana Jones to an extent, but he is 100% his own character. Naughty
That's
Dog
good to hear.
did a
That's good to
fantastic
hear.
job.
Because I never really, I didn't play enough to really get a sense for what kind of character Nathan really was.
They actually incorporated Crash Bandicoot into the 4th game. It was really cute.
That's nice.
I don't want to spoil how that happens because it's really cute the way they do it. But yeah, so open world games could be a lot better. They just feel just big and expansive, just for the sake of being big and expansive. I feel like you have to.
Yeah, the open world needs to be a pathway to experience something and not
also
a reason for you to buy the game.
If you're going to make an open world game and you want to put an emphasis on exploration, do not include a mini map. Don't do it.
Please don't hit the table. The microphone is resting on it. They can hear every time you hit the table.
I know.
It shakes the microphone.
It's fine. It's emphasis. I'm sorry if it sounded really bad, though. But yes, the mini map takes away so much.
Really? You think
yes. Think about it. Skyrim, you don't have one. You have a compass.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah.
So every time you come across like a new little cave, you don't know exactly where it is. So you have to kind of discover it.
Wait,
that's what's cool.
Isn't there technically a mini map in Skyrim?
Nope. No,
in caves, in the cave systems. I'm pretty sure. Or is it just a thing where you can open a map?
You can open a map of the cave,
but that's not the same.
It's not on the screen constantly.
Yeah.
It's not a static on-screen element.
No.
I was trying to think. Okay, that's fair.
And that's what I'm saying is like, if you want to try and put an emphasis on exploration in your game, a really good way to do that is to try to find a replacement for a mini-map. Or if you are going to have a mini-map, make it...
Have it serve a purpose. Like, have it, like...
Make it a mini-map.
Well, like, that's the thing. Like, Spider-Man...
I like self-building mini-maps. Those are cool.
Yes.
Self-building mini-map?
The ones
like,
where you can't...
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of like how Skyrim, whenever you have the map of the dungeon, as you go through the dungeon, it shows you. Well, and that's kind of helpful though too. Like whenever it has like mechanic like that, because of the fact that like you said with exploration in mind,
it shows you where you've been.
It shows you where you've been, but it also will show you if you miss like a place to go in somewhere else, which is also really helpful. Because like for me, I love to go everywhere, like I've already explained, and to a nauseating degree. But like I'll see on the not on the mini map, but on the filled in map, like where there's an extra offshoot where it looks like it's maybe going somewhere else, but you can't tell for sure. So that encourages me to go back and be like, well, what was there? I want to know.
What's this entrance?
But then also too, if you can't go back there, then I get upset because of the fact that you're stuck and you don't know what was there, and then you get mad about it, and then you have to replay the game and try to make sure you.
But our next topic is actually a pretty interesting one, and I think it's really relevant, especially nowadays, because as we speak, Crystal's passively playing a tablet game.
I am.
And this topic is how to make casual games more meaningful. And by that we mean like there's so many pick up and put down type of games, but they don't ever seem to have the same kind of impact that you would get out of a game that you sit down and play for a couple hours, like a role-playing game or a story-focused game. It's like, I would think that there would be more games that would try to find a way to make bite-sized stories that go into an overall overarching story. Because, like... Yeah. Like, I'm not necessarily saying you have to make, like, an episodic game, because episodic games do that. But, you know, like, when people watch TV shows, they're like, oh, I just got off work, I have a couple things to do around the house, and then they lay down in bed and watch, like, 2 episodes of a TV show and pass out.
But there's always a feeling of, like, as someone who has been very, very slowly watching Game of Thrones...
I love how you put that emphasis very slowly.
Exactly. I'll go a week or 2 without watching any of it.
Yeah. And
then when I sit down to finally continue the next episode, I know exactly where I'm at. I know everything that's happened up to that point. Now I'm refreshed on a few things because of the story thus far moments at the beginning of each episode, but I have no issue with recalling enough to know where I'm headed of what's been going on.
But there's plenty of people out there that, you know, if they put down something and then they pick it back up, half the time they just have to start over again because they can't recall what's happened.
And that happens with games all the time. How many times have you tried to start a Pokemon game, gotten to a point where you're really unsure of what you're going to do with any of the Pokemon you've started with, and then just start over because you don't remember why you gave any of them certain moves or had certain stuff? Like, I've seen you do it several times, and that's not your fault. That's a shortcoming of the game, and I don't call out shortcomings on Pokemon a whole lot, but...
Well, I will say, though, generally I try to, like, because I've had, especially with open world style games, too, a quest tracker is always super helpful. Because 9 times out of 10,
absolutely.
like, that's how you remember. Like, I'll see what I've done and what I'm going towards that way.
Another reason for me to say something positive about Dragon Quest XI, because I'm always looking for a way to do it. Listen, every time you, if you're like me, you would just put your PlayStation 4 in rest mode and then just turn it back on the next day and start playing again without having to reload your game. Yeah, but if you do turn off the game and then reload it, and then you have to load your profile, once you load your profile, you get this short little text box where one of the characters of the game is retelling you everything that's recently happened, and it catches you up to speed, and you're like, okay, I know where I need to go now.
You know what else did that
What's
I
that?
really liked? Final Fantasy 13.
Final Fantasy 13.
Yep. Yup.
You're leaning in on me like I have a harsh
No,
opinion.
that's more for their benefit than anything else.
I was like, are you meaning to say 15? Because I hate 15.
No, because another controversial opinion from Pat, which should be obvious given my very well-spoken love affair with Final Fantasy, I didn't mind Final Fantasy 13. Either of the three of them. That's still a very weird thing to, like, say.
Either of the three of them?
Like, just, like, in reference to any singular Final Fantasy title, like, the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy, like, that's so weird.
Well, it was weird that you said either of the three of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Any of the three of them.
Well, I mean, either.
Unless you're saying
either,
on purpose.
Well, either technically would still work.
You could say either for more than two things?
Yes.
I thought either implied...
No, not necessarily. Huh. Like it's typically used that way. But
I'm gonna look that up later.
I know. I was just thinking that. I was
as far as I know,
I do have a tablet
wrong,
right
here.
here.
As far as I know, like it does count for.
I think for the most point, for most.
All right, for just to cover my
all
bases,
our grammar's off now.
Just
grammar's
to cover
out
my
the
bases,
window.
Yeah, just to cover the bases. Any of the three of them. There we go. Just cut it. Just like edit and cut in the proper one when we find out which one's right.
There we go.
Don't do any of that.
I think
we're not editing.
To me, it just stands out like when people say all two of them.
All two of them, yeah.
It's like all
two of them. All two of them. That's weird. It is weird. But no, like it's just I don't know.
Technically right. But
I guess
one of them's technically right.
All of them. How many of these do you want? All of them. There's one. Yes, all of them. Okay, you're weird, but here you go.
But yeah, so I think there's a lot of ways to make casual games feel a little bit more meaningful. Like I think just because a game is casual doesn't even need to imply that it's not challenging.
Exactly.
You can. This is the great thing about humans, and the thing that I always remind myself is that. Well, there's two things that I always do to remind myself of things. One, I always remember the stupidest person I can think of that did something that I'm trying to do, because then it makes me feel like, well, if they could do it, then I can do it because they're stupid. But then there's the idea that humans are very, very adaptable. And it's reasons why some of my friends who can't seem to, for the life of, to save their life, play any video game they've ever wanted to play on hard. They always play on normal or easy. Somehow those same people beat Dark Souls. So, yeah, people are adaptable and they can get good at anything.
Although let's be honest. Beating Dark Souls isn't all that much of a...
But still, like...
Not all that much of a
Dark
thing.
Souls is very punishing.
I've beaten Dark Souls, and I hate Dark Souls.
That's fine. I'm not trying to say Dark Souls is the hardest game ever.
No. I understand I understand.
I think...
I'm just merely inserting my Dark Souls shade at any possible end.
What is it? The the roguelike games, those are the really, really hard ones, right?
Yes.
They're fucking
yes.
brutal.
Rogue
bullet hell
Legacy,
games
Faster
suck.
Than Light, stuff like that.
Fucking bullet hell games are hard as fuck too.
Yes. However, when you get in the zone, on
nothing feels better than getting in the zone. That's why I like challenging games, because it's going to put you in the zone way more than anything else.
Exactly.
And you can even get it out of RPGs. And the way you do that is play RPGs like me. Stay underleveled on purpose.
No. Nope, I'll pass, thank you. But that's the thing, like, casual games should be striving to give people that moment of, I'm performing perfectly. What? Oh, is your tablet dying?
I'm just putting it away.
That moment when you're playing through I don't remember names at the moment. A random bullet hell game.
Oh, okay.
When you're playing through one of those and you've gone the entire first half of the level without getting hit by anything, and you are in the zone and you know you're killing it.
A really good one is Cuphead. That's technically a bullet hell game.
Is it really?
In a way, it's a bullet hell platformer.
There you go.
It's really cool.
Yeah, but like you make it halfway through a level in Cuphead and you have been performing flawlessly and you haven't been touched by anything.
Well, sometimes it's bullet hell, sorry. I just have to make that.
But either
a lot of the boss fights are bullet hells.
Yeah, but that style of game where clearly like your reflexes and your performance is like it needs to be peak to get through, and then you see the same thing, the same kind of game done in a more casual setting and in a more casual, approachable way, and it doesn't need half of the skill.
Yeah, and that's a big problem, is because if you take a game where a big part of its appeal comes from how difficult it was, and then you make an easier version of it, I get it. You think, oh, we're going to make it more appealing to a general crowd. You've obviously missed why people liked it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
People liked the satisfaction of beating what is perceived to be an insanely hard game, a very challenging game.
Well, and that wouldn't be something that particular game wouldn't be something you'd pick up anyway to be a casual game. Like, if you're wanting to sit down for like an hour and play a game,
no, if you're looking for something that's a little laid back and just good old time fun, and you flip the case over and you see like 1,000,000 bullets on the screen, you're gonna be like, nope, I'm gonna buy Mario.
Yeah,
exactly. like something with smaller structured levels is always more appealing because of the fact that you can get to point A and point B and finish something and have the achievement of finishing that thing.
And then you can put that down, go to sleep.
Exactly, you move on with your
which Mario is perfect for that.
I actually know a handful of people. The reason they love the 3DS is because they can pick it up. 3DS actually does casual gaming pretty damn well, and still makes it feel worthwhile. And one of the big reasons is because if you close the lid, you can literally stop whenever you want, as long as
you have the battery life to withstand.
Yeah, as long as you don't accidentally turn off the battery life. Or the sad thing that I've done one time is when my Game Boy was in my pocket at school, somehow the cartridge popped out.
Oh, you poor thing! Oh dear God.
But yeah, but like stuff like that is really good. I just don't see why mobile games. I feel like, and I know we talked about mobile games last time, but if we're talking about casual gaming, mobile games is about as casual as you get, because you literally don't have to go out and buy a brand new game console just to get into a game.
Well, and 9 times out of 10, it's free.
Yeah.
Like,
we
even
even
Nintendo is putting out free games.
touched on that
last time.
We talked about how because games are free, they tend to be a specific type of game.
Yes.
But
but like if you take something like kind of veering back a little bit more towards console games, strictly because that's what I'm a little bit more familiar with and what I have examples of. Like, I've seen you play Breath of the Wild for 2 hours at a time, and you never seem to feel like you're really lost. Because
because I like to explore.
Well, exactly. But you're exploring. But you're doing something that.
Because when she gets lost, she's really just finding herself.
Exactly. There you go.
Well, see, like a game like that or Skyrim, though, like I live for finding a weird random cranny.
Exactly.
But the thing is, like, too, with that, like 9 times out of 10, well, Breath of the Wild's different. They don't really give you something where you can encounter it where it's not involved during a quest.
Yeah.
But, like, with Skyrim, you can go and take down an entire fortress and not be part of that quest.
Yeah.
Then go pick up a quest for that fortress, go back to that castle, and now there's like 3 enemies because you killed all the ones that were supposed to be spawned there.
Out there. Yeah.
So it's just like 3 enemies and you're done, and then you go rescue the girl, and you're like, this was easy, and she's like, wow, you went through so much, and I'm like, not really.
Not really. I didn't really do all that much. But like, that's the thing, is you're able to play those games for an hour or 2 at a time because you are infinitely more busy than I am.
Well,
whereas I would sit down and like I've sat down and I played God of War for 4 hours the other day, uninterrupted.
Well,
yeah,
I
get like that a lot too.
Sometimes I don't pick up Skyrim or Breath of the Wild though because of the fact that like it's not that you can't consume it in little chunks, but like whenever I sit down to play it, like I want to play it, binge play it. Like I don't want to kind of play it because then like if I do find something and I don't have the time to explore it, it makes me frustrated.
Exactly.
Like especially with Skyrim because like a dungeon in Skyrim takes like an hour.
Exactly.
Or an hour and a half.
But like in
or
a lot
2
of
hours if you're me.
Yeah. A lot of what I play and what I try to like kind of like give you to experience, like short of certain games, like there's a lot of the games that I really enjoy that you just don't have the time for. Mm-hmm. And like a really good example of ones that has gone really well, what little you've gotten to play of it unfortunately up to now, it is installed on the PS3 again though, so it'll be a little bit more easy. One that actually introduced to him as well, Sly Cooper. Mm. Oh, and games like that. Sly Cooper, it's tiny, bite-sized chunks, but if you want, you can take more than one bite. You just do more than one at a time.
It's like, how many slices of cake do you want today?
Exactly.
Yeah, 1, 2,
and
or the whole
perfect.
cake.
But like,
no, you take a slice off, put on a plate, and then you
grab
the container.
And then you grab the whole cake. Yeah. But it's like Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, Jak and Daxter, even Banjo-Kazooie and Mario 64. Like they're
Crash
all...
Bandicoot kind of
I
started.
Mario 64 was one of my favorite ones.
Exactly.
Like whenever I was a kid, that was one of my favorites to play. Yeah, that's always really good.
There's always a clear mark of you have succeeded. Yeah, thank you. Exactly. That's where I was headed. There's always like a clear mark of you have succeeded.
There's more if you want it.
You may continue, but you have succeeded. If you only have this time, you may now rest easy knowing that you have done your job.
We're far past the age of... And we still call them this in a lot of situations, but we are past the game design, at least for a vast majority of games, of game levels.
Mm-hmm.
And
but you can very easily like create a line of demarcation where you've cleared something, you've finished something. Like Spider-Man doesn't.
Have you quest tracker?
Have you played? I know you said you didn't beat any of them, but like, did you even play Jak and Daxter?
I played a little bit of the first one, but not really enough.
Okay, so like Jak and Daxter is really interesting because you technically have, and I'm doing air quotes, levels, but most of them you don't actually have to do anything to get there, you just walk there. So it's like a seamless transition straight into this little sub world, I guess. And you know what's really weird is the first time I replayed Jak and Daxter, because I recently got it on PS4 when they released it on PS4. I replayed through it. Like the first time you go through one of those little worlds, or whatever you want to call them. I think there's like literally a term for it, but I can't think of it right now. But when you go through one of those levels, they feel really, really big, but then when you go back through it, like when you backtrack to 100% complete it,
Sly has the
it
same
feels
feeling.
so tiny.
Sly has the same feeling. Like you commented on it when we were playing Sly. Like,
oh yeah,
it felt so big and expansive, and then you were like, oh, we're at the end already, because we did our second lap in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things though. Like whenever you're first experiencing something, you're taking in all that information. The second time you go by, you already know that.
You're familiar with.
Yeah.
It's replaying it. Like one of I thought of a really good example whenever you were listing off all the rest. But like one of my favorite ones to play, like I haven't played it in a long time, and now it just made me think of it. I was like, well, that'd be fun to play. But like Sonic is a great example of that. Like maybe not like Unleashed or like one of those ones,
Sonic
But-
Unleashed isn't a good example of anything.
Like, any of the other Sonic games would be really fun to play.
You guys would adore Sonic Mania because it's got the classic feel.
That's the one where it
goes back to 2D. Where
it basically looks like Sonic 2.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, it's supposed to be based off of Sonic and Knuckles.
Oh, okay.
Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
And Knuckles.
Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
Sonic Mania
And
and Knuckles.
And it's
Sonic
just
Mania
Sonic
and
with
Knuckles.
Knuckles
Yeah.
drawn on his gloves.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's little Knuckles,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
the characters. No,
Oh,
but yeah, Sonic Mania is great because it's got that classic feel of the Sega Genesis games, but on more modern day hardware, so you can actually like save.
Yeah.
You don't have to play it all in one
Yeah,
sitting now,
Mhm.
because one of the things the old games could have benefited from was like at least having the code system like Mega Man had, where you could put in a code to go directly to a level.
Oh, but that was awful. I'll be
Yep,
honest.
and you had to
because
remember
if you
them.
lost that code, no, see, like, okay, because whenever, this is a really bad example, and this just shows how interesting my game choices are. But whenever I was a kid, and like my Game Boy games, so like Game Boy games always had those like 90% of the time. They always had a code to get back where you needed to go. So like I bought a lot of Disney Game Boy games because I just like Disney games.
Monsters
like
Inc.
half of my games for GameCube are Disney.
Or at least it was fun.
Which Pat always makes fun of because he says I have bad taste in games. But for GameCube games.
I mean,
But
fair.
in my defense,
There's not that many good Disney games.
In my defense, I was
played
also
them
a
too.
child who loved Disney. So like for me, like
My
I
family
bought things
was
that
Disney.
looked like something I would be interested in. And the only things other than Disney I was super interested in was Legend of Zelda because my brothers introduced me to that on N64. Is that what came out for first?
Ocarina
Yes.
of Time.
Well, because they had N64. And then whenever Ocarina of Time came out, like I would always watch them ride around on Epona, and I was like, oh. And I think that explains why I like open world games. Because I'm just like, go all the places. But this one's like, oh, it's a pretty pony and I can ride it. And like I can go all over the place. I can jump over walls. Sorry.
It's fine.
I was excited.
Fine. But like that comes from you seeing them on Epona because that was like
well, that was my first introduction
like
to actual video games.
That was formative of your experience. Like that was your formative years of gaming. Like that defined what made gaming.
Well, and before that, all of my video games consisted of what I could play on the computer through CDs. So, like, I played, like, Disney exploration games. Like
I played games on floppy disks.
Yep.
I don't know if I ever did, to be honest. I
remember
remember
playing
CDs.
Doom.
Like I have.
Oh, Doom was so good.
What was the name of the Bugs Life game? I still have that Bugs Life game.
It was
And
just
it
called
was a
Bugs
lot
Life.
of fun for
It was
PC.
just a Bugs Life.
I like freaking loved that game.
I played the one on PS1. I don't know if it's the same exact
It's
game.
the same one, just with shiny controls.
Okay. Well,
I mean, realistically, it
was funny.
It was
an old game.
It was an old game.
But, like, that's what I originally started with, and then, like, my brothers got an N64 and a Sega Genesis.
You can't just say it's an old game. There's plenty of old games with great controls.
Well, yes, but...
Mega Man's an old game.
It was an old, crappy Disney game.
Yeah.
Mega Man's a really old game. Mario is an old game. Mario...
That is true.
As where it had simple controls. Now, you tell me... This is why Mario is fantastic. You tell me another game where it feels fantastic to literally do nothing but run and jump. That's all the original Mario is, and it feels really good.
Sonic.
But you don't just run and jump, because you can also charge up your, like...
Actually, that wasn't added until 2.
Well, it still counts.
But Sonic.
Dun, 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 dun,
dun.
But yeah.
I was gonna say Sonic, but then I was like, well, in mobile games,
I just had to have the dramatic
I
moment
really
of
liked
leaning
Temple
in.
Run, whatever that was a thing.
A Temple Run, yeah.
Yes.
Like that was very fun whenever it was fun. It's no longer fun, but like it was fun for a good length of time.
That's like when I was playing Subway Surfers on my phone.
Yes, I was gonna say Subway Surfer too.
Subway Surfer.
I think everyone liked that for like at least 2 days.
And then what was the other one that you had where it was like a jetpack dude? But
that one's good.
Joyride.
Yeah,
that one's good.
Still fun.
Although
that's
not
PS4.
like.
That's a real game. Like, and then it was ported over to.
Okay.
Honestly, if you want to find a really good game, find a game that was initially made for something else and then was ported ported successfully over to mobile.
Yeah.
And never play a game that was ported successfully. I say that sarcastically. Ported over to PC. I cannot stand mobile to PC ports, especially you, Square Enix. Fuck your PC. Oh. The graphics, those are not HD graphics.
Are you talking about Moby?
No. I'm talking about the
weird.
remakes of like Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger and all that shit.
God.
It's just bad. It's bad.
It's bad.
Okay,
and you should feel bad, Square Enix. Piss off.
I don't recommend this to people unless they already own the game. But if you don't have a way to get your hands on the old Final Fantasies or the old Chrono Trigger, and you want to play those games the way they're supposed to be played, just download an emulator. Because I would tell you give your money to Square, but it's not worth it because
the ports that the versions that are readily available now, with the exception of like the Steam versions of Final Fantasy 7 and 8 and 9 and like
those are fine, but
those
because
are really nice. Those are actually really nice.
To be fair, 7 was originally made on PC as well. So
yeah, but still, but the Steam versions of,
and I heard the Steam version of 9 is actually fantastic. From what I've been hearing, it's great. So I can't really say anything about that, but I do know that Final Fantasy 6 and Final Fantasy, or not Final. I was about to say Final Fantasy Chrono Trigger.
Whoops.
Yeah, but Final Fantasy 6 and Chrono Trigger were actually just the mobile ports put directly onto PC, which is just lazy, for one.
That's really unfortunate.
And two, it looks dumb because the UI, back to UI by the way, the UIs are just bulgy and giant, which is, it makes sense on a mobile device where you have to use your fucking stubby ass thumbs on a small screen.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
You have an on average 6 to 7 inch screen to work with, and that's not enough room.
But then you put it on a 1080p fucking monitor, and in my case, like a really nice monitor.
And the UI takes up half the screen for no reason.
Well, not anymore. Pat's case, I was going to say a TV, but he doesn't use his TV anymore.
Nope.
But yeah, like, some people hook their computers up to a 32-inch monitor, you know?
Exactly.
They don't want to see these really big, bulgy, weird UIs. Exactly. But yeah, I don't know how we got there after casual games.
That was weird. It was weird. I don't know.
It was something I had said about.
We just went down the line.
Yes.
We went down the rabbit hole, and you joined us. We dragged you down with us. But
we drag you through.
Yeah, we're already an hour and 40 in, so I think we'll just wrap it up.
Yeah. And this is when we decided we were going to consciously make sure we didn't get to 2 hours. Yeah. We cut it a whole 20 minutes short.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it was great having you on, Crystal.
Oh, thank you.
You know, I think you gave some decent feedback, and like feedback. Now, this is the thing: is I think everyone's feedback is important in the gaming community. Like, I don't believe in the whole elitism mentality, because I think video games should be appealing to everyone, and even if you don't play video games on a regular basis, like, I do think there should be like elitist mentality based games.
So
that specifically go for.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say there really isn't an excuse for an elitist mentality in anything.
No, not really.
Not anything that's made for general consumption. Like, if it's made for general consumption, it's made for general consumption.
No, I think in general.
Like,
yeah.
Well, yeah.
No, I mean, like, I don't like when I go into a ranked game and people are fucking around. That's annoying. But
yeah, but that's not elitism. That's like, that's understanding when to take the game seriously.
Yeah, but
anyway.
There's always the argument, they paid $60 too, they can play however they want.
Or if it's the case of something like...
They'll never get out of bronze anyways.
But that's something like Dota or Heroes or League, they didn't pay a goddamn cent.
Yeah, they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess they're paying with their time.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, before we end up sounding like elitists.
But no, that's the thing. Like,
play the game however you want.
Exactly.
Just understand that some people are going to be really mad at you.
Well, play the game. When it comes to competitive games, play how you want, but understand that you playing how you want in a competitive format defines another person's ability to play how they want. And treat it like
there's a level of expectation, yeah.
There is. And as there should be for a competitive game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, as always, like we said last week, don't hesitate to tell us why we're wrong, and then down in the comments as well, tell us why you're wrong.
Yep. And we'll see you later, nerds.